Yeah, thanks for the introduction, and thanks for being here and for listening. I'm Dominik Stockhausen. I am a director and a CG artist, and at the moment I'm studying animation and VFX at Film Academy in Ludwigsburg. So I'm just going to give you a very short introduction to Sonar, the VR movie I did. I'm going to keep it pretty short so that we can have more time for the panel discussion and Q&A. Sonar is a 6-minute, fully animated VR short movie. It's science fiction. It was my first step into virtual reality, sort of. I started doing it with my co-director Philip Maas and I back in 2014, and we've come quite a way since. The movie is about sort of exploration, a pretty dark exploration. There is an asteroid approaching from the darkness of space, and it's sending out some kind of a signal, a distress call actually. And throughout the movie we follow a drone that picks up that signal and tries to locate the source of it. And by doing that we dive into the very core of the asteroid, and we'll explore an ancient cave system and move towards a pretty dark secret that is hidden there. This line is actually outdated. It's already on the Gear VR store, if you want to check it out. When I started making the movie in 2014, I actually started, with my co-director, we actually started working on a traditional movie for the traditional movie screen, because that's what we did. We both come from animation backgrounds, backgrounds in animated movies. And we actually started pre-production on the whole thing, so the script was ready. We had all our storyboards, and we started going into the layouts of our different shots. And then we came along DK1, the first developer kit from Oculus, and we went, shit, okay, we have to do it in VR, because the story that we wanted to tell and the setting we put the whole thing in, and the themes and especially the emotions that we wanted to deliver with the movie would just immensely be pushed by telling it in 360 degree. So we basically gave ourselves 1 week of very, very basic research. This was in like March 2014, so there wasn't much out there in terms of how do you make a VR movie. All we knew was workflow from traditional CG animated movie making. So we tried to find a way to twerk and tweak all the workflow that we knew into a new workflow that would work for virtual reality. But yeah, basically, as I said, we couldn't resist. We wanted to play from the very beginning in the movie with this contrast of being stuck in a very, very limited space of the drone itself, opposing like that vast expansion of space, and you have these huge caverns that you're going to dive through, and that physical aspect of virtual reality, that your mind and your body in a very strange way get disconnected from one another while you're experiencing virtual reality, was just irresistible for us. The mind knows what is going on when you experience virtual reality. You know that you are watching something that is created and only virtually exists. You hear all your friends, you hear all the noises from around, you feel the chair that you're sitting on, but still your body says, I don't care, because I feel the room that I'm in, and I feel the movement that is happening to my body. And this is like a very intriguing contrast and a very intriguing conflict, actually, for me as a storyteller to explore and to put in the movie. And it's just the same with that very like profound connection that you have between the audience, the viewer, and the content. You're always in the center of it. Everything is aimed at you. It's a very unique feature that virtual reality delivers, which a traditional movie cannot deliver. You always have that physical separation from you and the actual screen, and you do not have that in virtual reality. So what was important to us in making the movie was, since we come from a movie-making background, we had a look around when we started with the project of what was out there at the moment. And in 2014, and even on a broader scale, and even today, most of the experiences that we found back then were basically game demos, which focused much more on the technological aspect than on the storytelling aspect. And the other experiences that were there were like simple VR, simple 360-degree videos. So basically, putting a camera rig somewhere on a remote place, and then you will be there and you'll experience it. But that's it basically. And even today, like the broader movement of the whole VR thing goes towards that game character and that game aspect, focusing on interaction and providing storytelling by giving you the opportunity to interact with your environment and making that the center of the storytelling. So our approach was to take all that we knew about movie making, take all the language that we had at our disposal, and try to recreate that for virtual reality. We really wanted to deliver this whole sensation that we have and that we all know when we are watching a movie, which is profoundly, or can be profoundly different from playing a game. It's just a mindset that is slightly different between these two, because it's something you approach a game in a very different way than you approach a movie, and we wanted to really implement that movie watching sensation in the whole project. We had to learn a lot because directing for virtual reality obviously is quite different from what it means to direct for a traditional movie. As I said, we knew all our movie-making language. We had all these different aspects that we could create meaning with, like creating images that speak to the audience and that the audience can read by staging and framing. The same goes for editing, where you can create movement and, again, meaning. And it's always this connection of what we can do with the movie, but on the other hand, what the audience can decipher, since we know how a movie works and how a movie tells a story since we grew up, basically. So we had to rethink all these aspects, starting with the very first question of who am I as an audience? I am always in the center of the story. Everything is directed towards me. I can choose where to look. So what does that leave me with? Am I an active part of that story? Am I a character that is relevant, or am I not? And if I am a character in the story, why don't I have interactivity? Because we decided to not go into, we didn't work in an engine. The entire movie is pre-rendered, which means apart from the ability to look around you and to decide where you want to look, you don't have actual interaction to maintain that movie aspect. So we had to clarify that from the beginning in order to be able to, move forward with the story. And then the other thing is, okay, if you decide you are a passive, you are not relevant for the story, you're not a character, you're a spectator, and you don't have interactivity, it's good to know for me as a director, but how do I transport that to the audience in order to, you know, avoid that feeling of, why am I not a character? Because I feel like a character. Just that thing of not planting that idea into the audience's head of actually, or maybe I am a character. So there were different approaches we took, and I think we're probably going to dive into that later in the discussion. Yeah, I just wanted to give you this short overview and to explain that the actual purpose of Sonar was it to try to push that cinematic language of movie making in VR and try to experiment not on the basis of interaction, but actually giving the audience that sensation of watching a story that has been directed for you and that has been chosen for you, which as a director gives me more precise ability to deliver my messages to you. Yeah, I think that's it for the moment. Just to let you know what the project was about. I think you can watch Sonar somewhere here, either upstairs or downstairs. Just go ask, and then yeah, we see each other at the panel discussion.
Thank you very much, Dominik. Also, the next artist is present with an exhibition here. It's Doghouse by Macropol, and Johan Knattrup Jensen is here from Copenhagen, who directed this interactive 360-degree Lars von Trier-esque film experience. Johan, stage is yours.
Lars von Trier-esque. Hello. Lars von Trier-esque? How I'm supposed to follow up on that? The greatest director in Denmark, and you're like, yeah.
Not for much longer.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, hello everybody, my name is Johan. Here, sorry. So, thank you for coming, and yes, it's true, I did a film installation up here called the Doghouse. I'm gonna explain a bit about it later. Okay, so this is what's up there. Okay, but first I'm gonna quickly get you through how I became who I am today. Because this is how I started. This is me, and about this time I saw my first movie. And it was this movie. It's called The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. And it's a very dramatic movie, and it was the first movie that actually made me cry a lot. I don't know if you've seen it, but there is a scene where the thief is force-feeding the clown boy with his own buttons. That was the point where I had to let go, and so that was amazing. And I cried for many hours, and my mom had to sort of caress me. So that was the greatest first movie experience I had, and that sort of, in a way, just drove me towards movies. So I started at film school, and this was my first movie at the film school, my first year film. It's called skinke in Danish, which is ham, or like meat, like schinken. And there's a lot of meat, of course, in that movie. This is Carsten Bjørnlund. I don't know if you can see him, but he's like, he's a really good Danish actor. There's a lot of meat, and I think in a way there's been a lot of food in all of my movies in a way. But there's also been a lot of like human relations and a lot of love and a lot of how things are really difficult to reach each other. So the last movie I did at film school was this, and it's a movie about a famous Danish poet called Michael Strunge, who died when he was 27. And the movie is called Son of the World. This is a still from the movie. So I think why I'm saying this is just to let you know that I come from a conventional film background. I really like black and white movies and old movies and Ingmar Bergman and Tarkovsky and Gaspar Noé and Carlos Regadas, and I really like movies, but I also like movies that are sort of edgy and that's very physical. I like movies that are very physical. This is also a still from the movie, and as you can see, there's a lot of skin and a lot of body and a lot of physicality. And when I finished film school, I was like, I was getting kind of tired of people like coming out of the movie theater and talking about the movie like it's the acting was good or the editing was good or the camera work was like I didn't really like it, or I wanted people to come out of the movies and say, wow, the ride I've just been through, the emotions I just experienced, or it was so tough being that guy or like that. So and then we discovered the Oculus Rift, the VR headset, and we tried it out, and we were like, wow, this can maybe do something. So we created the Doghouse. And this is the poster of the Doghouse. This is the characters in the Doghouse. And as you can see, I'm sort of returning to the whole dinner situation and the food thing. I really like food. And I really like food in films. So the Doghouse is a story. You can go see it. It's right up here. It's a dinner party. It's a family dinner, and it's experienced through each of the characters' perspective. So when you take on the goggles, you see the movie through the eyes of the character. It's not animated or computer generated. It's a real movie. And it's, sorry, Dominik. And it's also an installation. This is from the premiere of the installation. So the audience sit around the dinner table, the same dinner table as in the movie, and they are suddenly there inside the movie, looking out of the eyes. And the thing about having the same table in real life as in the movie creates sort of a naval cord between the fiction and reality, which I really like. And so they are somehow connected to fiction. And the magic about the Doghouse is when people, it's not when you put on the goggles and see this film, it's cool, but it's not magic. The magic is when you take off the goggles and you look in the eyes of the four strange people sitting around this table, but all of a sudden you know them somehow. It's like you have a family bond with them. You've had this dinner with them. You had this discussion with them. And all of a sudden, you just start to talk to each other. And you're like, what did you do when you went to the basement? Or why did you say this to me? Or why did you touch me there? Stuff like that. So people start to talk in you and I instead of the characters. And that's really special. That's really special. So and I like food, I like movies, and I like cameras. I really like cameras. And we had to build, for this show, we had to build our own camera. And it looks like this. So this is Mads, he's my producer. And we have made a company together called Macropole. And this is the camera, 2 cameras, so it's stereoscopic, mounted on a bicycle helmet with binaural microphones. And the back, which we call the monkey, is where the recorders are and where transmitters and stuff like that. And you can see the monitor, it creates like a round image because it's very, very wide. It's 180 degree. So you can actually see, in that image, you can see his body. And when we give people the mask on, the goggles, people look around and they can look down and they can see the character's body as if it was their own. We did the Doghouse in 2013 and premiered it January 2014. And it's we didn't really know what we were doing, actually. We were pretty stupid about the whole thing. So we just did what we wanted to do, and we didn't know anything about virtual reality. But we were kind of lucky that people I mean, there's a lot of, I have to say this, there's a lot of people getting really sick from doing the Doghouse. And you jump into the body of another human being, and it's very overwhelming, and the movements of the camera and stuff. So it's a very tough experience, but some people enjoy it actually, and that's amazing. So we thought that we wanted to develop this technique, and we developed a new camera which looked like this, also stereoscopic but with a bigger field of view. And we used this for a virtual reality lab that we did in collaboration with Copenhagen Docs, where we invited 20 people from Scandinavia to come and experiment with virtual reality and cinematic virtual reality and see what they could do about it. And we even went further and built this camera, where we took some new lenses called Tanyana lenses that is like 250 degree field of view. I mean, it's very crazy to have a camera that can actually film behind the camera. And then we had this very crazy microphone on top, which is a 32, what does that mean? It mean time? Okay. Never mind then. So, the thing is, I wanna continue doing this, and so I made a pilot for a feature-length experience called Eva, and this is Eva's mother Helga, and she's pretty evil, and this is the camera we developed for that, where we used a depth field camera as well, light field camera, whatever. So this is how it looks. This is Eva. She's eating a cake, and then we can return to food again. Okay, and this is the poster of Eva. So just to round it up, so this pilot is invited to Cannes. It's having the world premiere in Cannes next week, which I'm very happy about. And this is the feature-length experience that I want to do with this. And another fun fact about me is that I am also a singer in a punk band. And we made an album a couple of years ago, and this is the cover of the album. We're called 1000 Laks. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Johan. So, we had now computer-generated images, live-action movies, and come now somehow back to the source, but maybe back to the future. Chris de la Garza, immersive comic.
How many of you have noticed that the environment is getting more and more polluted and the people becoming more and more sick? Thank you. Raise your hand if you want to stop this from going on. Thank you. My name is Christopher de la Garza, and I'm very honored and thankful that I may talk here today. Within the next 10 minutes, you will see how, today, you can make better decisions for tomorrow, how you can make the world a better place. I'm a writer and producer of the graphic novel called Hemispheres. I have been trained as a media designer, and I'm a business designer and serial entrepreneur. At the moment, I'm studying public relations. Moreover, I'm a teacher with Think Big. Traveling through all of Germany, showing young people how to do good things with digital technologies. As the founder and CEO of a creative agency called Color Scale Design, I'm working with interdisciplinary team for clients like Herlitz. As you can see, we made some Gundam science fiction stuff for them. Or for Deutsche Bahn, we made event management. Or UFA, or UFA, which is a canvas you can see. We made for gute Zeiten, schlechte Zeiten. And for example, ZDF, that was an immersive production called Dina Fox. You can also visit. For Hemispheres, I've already collected 20,000 euros with the help of crowdfunding platforms, and we have achieved 3,350 organic likes on our Facebook page. Organic means these likes are not paid, which I'm very proud of. So, when I was 10 years old, I never quite understood why so many people do so many absurd things to each other and to our environment. It made me sad and mad, thinking about why we only fight the symptoms instead of going to the root of the problem. Early on, I have asked myself, what motivates people? What makes them do the things they do? You can see what is going on in this world. Personally, I have to the conclusion that I need to become creative so that I could be a source of inspiration for those around me. For me, the media are a great opportunity to tell a story that reaches many people and makes them stop and think. With Hemispheres, I want to inspire a discussion about social and economic change in the world, together with you as a crowd. I want to create a common vision of how to deal with the challenges of the 21st century. So, Hemispheres is truly immersive art. It contains art, technology, philosophy, and science, which you can't separate. So I would like to show you some of our Hemispheres world right now. How many people of you read the description of this session? Okay, not many, but I will tell you the story of our comic. The story is about David Shikara, a Buddhist monk who goes back down from the mountain into his home city to get some life-saving medicine for his friend. Down in the city, he meets Sela Ray, a graffiti girl who wants to fight for a healthier and fairer society. Both of them realize that the people in the city need to change their ways of living by changing their ways of thinking. There you can see our logo. Hemispheres contains two half of spheres. So hemispheres means half of sphere. And here you can see first artworks of our logo, and the light part stands for the utopian part. So in a comic, it's a monastery, and the dark side is the city and the dystopian part of the story. And to show you what hemispheres means, on the right side you see a stupa, and this is a Buddhist kind of temple. So you can see here the protagonist heading down to the megacity, and for the Buddhist monks, this stupa connects the Earth with your universe. On the left side, you can see a world time clock. So this is an artwork from our comic where you can see the world time clock, which is disconnected from Earth. So it's levitating and uses quantum levitation, for example. So we don't take science as science fiction, because we think grounded in reality is an important part to show the future, how it could be.
Genaue Schrittplan ist sozusagen, dass ich das Drehbuch schreibe, das Skript, dann erstellt Sascha Storyboards.
Also erste Skizzen, wie könnte die Seite aussehen? Also wo sind die Panel? Wie sind sie verteilt? Wie groß sind sie? Welche Form haben sie? Was ist in den Paneln zu sehen? Welche Komposition?
Und je genauer die Vorlagen sind, desto besser können wir die Fotoshootings machen.
Ja, die sind auch tatsächlich ein bisschen verwackelt und unscharf.
Ja, das liegt aber an
ja, das ist ja auch okay. Ja. Aber du hast natürlich genau die Reflexion in den Augen.
Ja.
Perfekt.
Ja.
Und den Rest hast du in dem anderen auch.
Ja. Ja.
Na, wenn ich das so ganz normal lasse und dann rangehe, mit dem schon ziemlich nah dran, oder?
Ja.
Ich heiße Wanbo.
Yeah, so this was a clip of our movie Vision to Life. It's a documentary we made last year. And there you see the production process of Hemispheres, which includes the script, the storyboard, then the shooting of real persons. So if you want to take part or become part of Hemispheres, you can just ask and we make photos and you can become a real comic character if you want. So we also like to hide messages or secrets in our comic. There you can see a famous painting of Arnold Böcklin. It's called The Isle of the Dead. Even H.R. Giger made an own version of it. And we also liked the painting. So as I told before, we make grounded in reality art. We take architecture from Qatar or a train station of Dubai, and then we created our own version of the Isle of the Dead. So this is called in Hemispheres. This is called Hirosolima. This is the mega city in our comic, and even more secrets. In the bottom right, you can see a skull, inspired by Holbeins Die Gesandten. There you can see an anamorphic picture of a skull, also in this picture. And even more, architecture, character design, cars, even cars, or a prison bus. Furthermore, we made a helicopter, but Simon, our concept artist, created a 3D version of the helicopter. So it becomes real and could be printed. So this is not the only 3D art we made. Yeah. We scanned the protagonist and made a candle made of beeswax. And even a can, which is limited and extending our universe. This is Sascha, our illustrator, and I would like to show you a short movie clip of his
eine der
science.
Erfindungen, die man in der Graphic Novel sieht, die ich also vor 4 Jahren gemacht habe, ist die Projektion von zweidimensionalen oder sogar auch von dreidimensionalen Bildern auf einen eindimensionalen Projektionsschirm. Diese Erfindung erlaubt es also, Bilder so zu projizieren, dass man um den Projektionsschirm herumgehen kann, im vollen Kreis, und dass das Bild dabei sich immer mitdreht, automatisch, für jeden Betrachter. Diese Projektionsmethode, die findet man auf der Seite, wo der Mönch im Gefängnis landet.
Im Rahmen von Hemispheres haben wir schon viele Meilensteine jetzt gehabt. Unser Plan ist es ja eben nicht nur Ausstellungen zu machen, Festivals zu besuchen, sondern eben auch Messen, Comic-Messen, Design-Messen. Waren 2013 April.
So, events, exhibitions, everything which extends our world is welcome. Comic-Cons, and even Van Bole Menzel, an architect based in Berlin and visionary, is taking part in our comic. So, yes, I would like to invite you. The time has come to put our idea into action because our idea is contagious. Making narratives come to life and enabling insights. Quality of life, future, design, and social entrepreneurship. The vision to be a moderator, to channel energies, to become a catalyst. Visit our homepage, hemispheres.world, and become the change you want to see in the world. Envision our future today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. And now we bring all three experts back on stage in 4 chairs, and we will have a quick Q&A. Dominik, Johan, Chris, please join me on stage. Okay, you can think of questions you want to ask them, and I just throw out 2 or 3 that I have to ask. When movies first came into contact with the audience, there's this story where they are showing the arriving train in Gare de Lyon in a Parisian cafe that they changed into a cinema, and people actually thought this train might hurt them arriving at the station, and they ran out of the cafe and actually hurt themselves. So that's a classic example of a society being not capable of coming to terms with a technology shift. You are working on a similar technology shift. You haven't mentioned that, but both of you mentioned the problem, the VR sickness, which is a physical thing, but also the problem of closeness and intimacy with a deep story. What works for you in that field? What is a success, and what is interesting in overwhelming the audience by immersiveness?
What works, I think there is, with VR we have, let's say, 2 levels of what works and what does not work, because since you have that effect that people get like motion sick very quickly, you have that layer of, let's say, a technical specification that you have to meet in order to make it work, in order to not have latency when you look around and all that stuff, which has nothing to do with the actual story or the story that you are telling. And so that is the one aspect. And the other aspect is story-wise, or I think what we see a lot today still is content that is not quite, that hasn't got the necessity for that medium, I'd say. I think VR has still to find its own stories and its own way of storytelling, which make this medium and all the technological aspects that it brings with it that sort of justify that?
Yeah, I mean, what is the success? I mean, the success is telling a story that people really can relate to, and that, you know, that it provides something within them that sort of just stick and just stays there in a way. I have this credo to myself that I would like to make stories that have a beginning, a middle, but never ends, because I wanted to just stay inside audience forever in a way. I think this is, and I think this was maybe, as you mentioned, with the train coming in, that what we are creating is experiences. It's not like it's not just something you can spend your time on when you're bored. It's I wanna make, you know, experiences that you can remember, that you want to talk to your friends about, to your family about, that somehow opens up your life. I think that's the success for me in a way, and I think virtual reality has that power to actually put people inside the movie and to create that world that reassembles a memory or a dream or maybe even a nightmare.
Chris, is it the same for you when you pick people and put them into a comic you direct?
Well, it's for me it's an adventure. We had the idea to write a script, and then we started and made some artworks in the first. And after that, we asked friends and to become part of the story. And after that, I had the idea to ask celebrities and people which have a positive impact on the society, like Van Bole-Menzel, which is architect and visionary in Berlin, based in Berlin, and projects he made, Karma Chucks or the 1 square meter house. So he tries to change the world and have an impact.
Just one thing that I'd like to add. What you said about creating memories, that's what I find a very fascinating aspect, because I think too that VR has the potential of actually creating memories, to create virtual memories, and I'd love to see that at some point in the future we'll be talking about what is your first virtual memory, or it's just because that it is so subjective, the whole storytelling and the whole medium. Yeah, I find that very fascinating.
It also sounds really scary. Your first virtual memory, that sounds really scary in a way. I remember a robot. I don't know.
One more kind of technical question is, both of you, for me, have the possibility of touching the audience physically or moving them physically. And what the Void is doing in Utah at the moment with a little drop, so you've got a big drop in the VR and just a 6-inch drop on the floor, but you calculate it in your head to falling down 2 meters. What kind of fantasies have you as professionals in physically manipulating or embedding the body, the actual physical body of the audience, like in Ready Player One with a full gear set where you can walk and just have the physical equivalent?
I always find it fascinating of actually how little input you need, of how little actual physical input you need in order to make audience believe what they are seeing is actually present in the physical world. For example, you're walking along like a wall, and there's these little stones on top of them, and you have to walk over them. And if you just give audience like this initial trigger of blocking their way when there's a stone with your foot, you'll immediately see that afterwards the audience will actually start moving their feet, believing there will be other obstacles in the real world. So that's what I'm interested in, not necessarily building up this whole 100% everything is represented in the physical world experience, but tricking the audience into making them believe and making them want to believe that there is something that is actually not there. I think that's a very, again, fascinating and again frightening thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit more conservative in a way. I'm a bit more classical in that sense that I am not necessarily interested in that the audience should move or should be a part of that story physically. I still like watching a movie and just being a witness to that movie in a way and just have a story told to you that's a really good story. But for me, I think about it a bit differently. I want I want it to be the other way around. I want people to be able to step inside the story, or in a way to take the story on themselves, like clothes or whatever. Not so they can move inside the story, autonomously, or whatever. But for me, when I've seen like shows like Sleep No More in New York, or like Secret Cinema in London, where you go into this big house and there's actors and there's a big set design, and it's like you walk into the movie and you are inside the movie. I really like that, and I think that my fantasy anyway is to make a movie that sort of works that way. So you can actually walk into the movie and be inside the movie, and you can leave the movie when you want to leave the movie, not when the movie leaves you.
Let's open up for questions from the audience. Oh, there are many. Please.
I'm interested in the nomenclature of the whole thing, because we've talked about movies and games and experiences. I think experience is a very long word. So what's the future? What are we going to call these things? XPs or something like that? What do you think?
Good question.
I don't know, actually. I find it funny. I find the whole situation funny. The problem with what is VR, is there a difference between VR and 360 video? Is a game VR just because of the headset? It's all, I think that's what like the whole process of that medium will show or will bring. I mean, the beauty of it is that it is so open at the moment. We don't have names, and we don't have actual labels for it, and we don't have the genres yet, or there's all these different aspects that we've been talking about, like full body immersions, and there's virtual movies, there's VR games. I think that's just a natural process of let's see where the medium is headed, and I think all the labels and all that stuff will fall into place eventually.
Sure. Do you remember the books? I had them when I was a child. When you would go through and you'd read a story, and then at the end it would say, if you want to hit him, go to page this. But that was, I mean, it's still a book. You still read it as a book, even though that it was a different kind of book and was very popular at that time. So, to me, I would still call it a film. What I do, it's still a film because it's a visual storytelling within a video medium. I think yours would still be a graphic novel.
Yeah, it's
probably.
So comics and graphic novels are similar, the same.
They're the same. So you could call it a graphic novel or you could call it a comic.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter really. What matters is what it gives to you and what you like, I guess. One here.
Hi there. Thank you for your insights. My name is Arno Sellhorst from Sapien Nitro in Cologne, a manager for user experience. I mean, we're talking about immersiveness and we're talking about stories. And I mean, wouldn't it be great to have a movie where you never step out? Where you you're in that movie as long as you want and you can finish it whenever you want. Now, there's a concept like alternative reality games that is picking up on that notion. And I was curious to know what's your position on alternate reality gaming, and have you ever had contact with this? What's your perspective on this? Anyone or every single one of you?
Sure. I think it's really fascinating concept, and I've tried some similar things, but I've never tried the real where you have to go online and Google stuff and find that 2-year-old tweet and go around like that. I haven't tried that, but I've tried role-playing games, which is kind of in the same street. Not really, I know it's different, but it's kind of like you have to live you have to immerse yourself into the story in a way. You have to accept the premise of the story. And I mean, I think it's interesting, but I don't think it's a film. But I appreciate the people who do it because it's great.
Most of the AR things that I've tried so far, most of the time focused very much on a social aspect, bringing people together in the actual space that is being, augmented with other stuff. So I haven't tried anything really story-driven in AR. To me, it's definitely interesting. I think it provides another layer. I think it could be actually a movie because you take that whole dispositive or this whole dispositive thing into the calculation again, like you have in the cinema. You have your surroundings. You have all the impact of the people eating popcorn next to you and all that stuff. You do have a shared space if that works. So I think it can be interesting for storytelling, absolutely.
Well, I guess VR gaming is quite expensive still. And if you look at Silicon Valley, there's also an omnidirectional walking panel. And I think that's cool, but it's quite expensive. So I could imagine that some sort of gaming halls have a revival or something where you can join, play, and go home again. Yeah.
Hello. All right. Are you hearing? Yes. Hello. Yes. So my name is Jonathan. I'm a movie maker as well, film producer. And I like the point that you pointed out at the very beginning about the audience, that you were trying to give something to the audience. And I think you also already proven that you are picking up the audience with your campaign, even though I'm not, because you didn't tell so much about the story, how much you are talking about social change. I would like to know more about this later personally, but last, I would like to direct this question to you. How do you manage the process of reaching the audience? Did you think about who is my audience? Did you direct the topics to them? And if yes, is there going to be a second step where you use virtual reality as a signature as a filmmaker?
I didn't get, so it's a two-part question.
Yes.
The one thing is about the audience, yes. How I'm dealing with the audience. And the second part is if VR is going to be my signature as a filmmaker.
Exactly.
Okay, great. I think it's a very tricky thing about the audience. I know that I mean, with the next project we're doing, Eva, we will have a serial release of like 10 episodes of Eva's childhood. And in between those episodes, we will somehow try to communicate with our audience. And one of the ideas we came up with was to make a Reddit Ask Me Anything, where the audience could talk to Destiny. And Destiny would, of course, be me and my producer. And we would talk about, so you could ask questions to Destiny, and by asking questions to Destiny, somehow affect the story. Maybe.
Great.
I think, but I think it's very tricky, because when you start to think about making stories for an audience that you try to imagine, then I think you're starting to make stories for other than yourself. And I don't want to make a story that I don't enjoy. So usually I say that I don't really care about the audience, because in the end it's me who needs to be thrilled or cry or be emotionally whatever the story wants, tightened or whatever. So I think it's a tricky question, but I realize that it is there, that it is a possibility that probably you can get something out of it. And to answer your second question about signature, no, I don't think VR is going to be my signature. But the next film I'm making is VR. The next film after that is probably going to be something else.
And it might be called anyway a different name. I'm sorry, because I would really like to continue it, but we are at the end of our time. So I thank you very much, Chris, Johan and Dominik. Johan's installation VR experience will be available up there on the second balcony. Dominik's 360-degree Sundance screened film Zona will be screened downstairs at the VR cinema. And Chris is so generous to donate a signed art print for everybody interested in exchange for an address over there. And if you have the same, if you also would like to continue this conversation, you're all invited to come on the 5th and the 6th back here. When Republica is finished, we've got lots of time and entry is free, and we will continue that discussion on several different levels. Doghouse will also be visible up there. Dominik will be available and continue exactly this talk in a part 2, and Chris is invited as well. So, yeah, and they're available to be talked to. Thank you very much for your applause, and thank you very much for our volunteer and the translators.